Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Imani, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. So, today's episode is about making a rental your own. And
hmm
I love doing rental episodes because I don't think rental topics are covered enough kind of in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
And so, we really do cover buying, selling, and renting here on this podcast. And you know, both my marketing associate and I came across your profile a while ago on Instagram, and we were really both into it because it's talking about how if you're a renter, a short term renter,
hmm
a long term renter, for whatever reason you're renting, you really should be making this home or feel free to make this home your own.
hmm
And you truly have done that. We'll get into that a little bit about what you've done and how you've done it. Um, but yeah, so we love what you're putting out. We love your product. So again, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Offline we talked about how this is kind of your first podcast, that you've done another one before, but for a
Yeah.
different reason. So, um, and just so you
I
know, and
watch
I
a lot of podcasts. I'm like, oh my God,
there you
like,
go.
is this what it's like?
Yeah, you'll see it when it's edited and done and beautiful and perfect. But so I think a lot of my listeners know this, but my first
hmm
condo was, or what is, I still own it, a 520 square foot one bedroom. It's a lower level
hmm
unit. I bought it. It was pretty much new because I knew I was going to have absolutely no money to fix anything after I bought a home. But it was like, your developer kind of standard blah. All the
hmm
walls were white, all of the
The
trim was
floors were
white.
gray.
Yeah, I was lucky. I got in right before the real estate gray thing took over.
Oh,
I
okay,
know,
okay.
I
You were
know.
lucky.
Doesn't
You
matter. I
were
painted
very
over it
lucky.
anyway. But so I did what I wanted, but then I've also now
hmm
had several sets of tenants who have wanted to do what they've wanted as well. And I have been a huge proponent of letting people do what they want. We can get into, again, some of the specifics about how it can be challenging.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. So I guess first maybe we can start off because I'm interested to know, like, why do you rent? How long have you rented?
Mm.
Like, what's the impetus for the renting?
So I started renting back in like 2015, 2016 while I was still in college. I had to leave my dorm because I got fired from being an RA. And I had like one summer to find a place to live that was off campus that wasn't like $1,000,000. I ended up finding a one bedroom over like near Howard University, right off Georgia Avenue for $1,000. It was absolutely perfect apartment, like $1,000. Come on, it was crazy. Um, and honestly, I rent because it's convenient. I rent because it's fun, because I don't enjoy having to be very worrisome about things that are going on in this apartment. Like, yeah, I can change a light fixture, but if the wires like burn out and something crazy happens, it's not on me. I like to say that it is above me. These problems are not my issues. I had an issue a couple months ago with my uh, bathroom where it was like the hot water stopped working. No, excuse me, it was the cold water that stopped working, and all I was getting was hot water, and I couldn't take a shower because it was boiling hot water every single day, all day. And I called the maintenance team within like an hour. They were here and they were like, hey, just letting you know, we're missing one part. We're going to order it today. It'll be here tomorrow, and we'll be back here to fix it. And I was like, thank you. And they
Yeah,
had to like, take a portion of the wall off to get back there to fix what they had to fix. And it was above me. Like,
yeah,
I sat in my kitchen and I watched them do what they did, and they fixed it, and they had to call in like a special guy to come in and fix it. And I was just like,
yeah,
that's
yes.
very nice.
No, I mean, for sure. I
And
mean,
I enjoy that.
not having to take care of things on your own is probably the number one benefit, to be honest, of
Yeah.
renting, I'd say.
hmm
Um, and I mean, of course, hopefully you have a landlord who is actually listening to your wants and needs. But yeah, with
Yeah.
assuming that that's the case, then yes, it's definitely I think the most positive aspect of renting. So now, if anybody, let's just pretend people who are watching or listening right now don't follow your account, don't really know who you
hmm
are. Let's let everybody know. that you have done a tremendous amount of work on your place. And we're going to get into some of
Yeah.
the kind of things that you've done specifically, because we're going to ask what's easiest, what was the hardest. But I think the first question people have when they do see what you've done is, how are you communicating with your landlord? How would you get approval? And do you have any processes that you suggest for people? Because I think that's the number one most overwhelming thing when somebody wants to make a rental totally their own.
Yeah. So I think it always starts with, even before you move in, the conversation starts when you reach out via text, via email. However, when you're touring a place for the first time, you need to be having a conversation with them, being like, hey, what do you guys feel about allowing people to paint? What do you guys feel about allowing people to change the hardware? Those, when I toured my unit, I actually signed the lease on this place prior to seeing the apartment. But when I was talking to the sort of leasing person, I was like, oh, yeah, I would just prefer if the entire apartment was painted white. And they did. When I moved in here, they painted the entire place white because that is what I asked for prior to even moving in here. And I had asked them, like, how do you guys feel about painting? How do you guys feel about, changing hardware, light fixtures, that kind of stuff? And they were like, we have people who have lived in this building for 30 plus years. So we're not going to say, if you're going to live here for a decade, you can't have a ceiling fan. That would be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But, we ask that you keep the pieces in your unit. And when you're ready to move out, you replace them. When I got the lease, I looked over the lease to make sure that that part was in there, that that language was there. And then when it got to a point where some of the things that I wanted to do in the apartment were a bit of a bigger deal, I sent over an email to my landlord sort of explaining exactly what I wanted to do. I sent them links to people doing similar projects in rentals. And then I gave them even like the product links to the exact things that I wanted to use. And I gave them information about the plumbers that I was going to hire in order to do the work. And I sent that over to an email. They went through their process, going through like their chain of command. And they came back to me with saying, like, hey, of all the things that you want to do, you can do all of these things. There was one thing that they wouldn't let me do. And I said, okay, I'm fine, not having this thing as long as I can get the main thing that I want. And we worked it out, and we did.
Yeah.
And I created this thing called a landlord email template. I feel like it should have a better name, but I couldn't think of anything more crafty than that. But I created the landlord email template, and then I put a video out on TikTok and Instagram talking about how people can communicate with their landlords. And at this point, over 3,000 people have downloaded that template. And like, I have a relatively small following. And so for 3,000 people to come to something that I have created and say, this is extremely helpful for me, I just feel like really grateful that something that I did just because I wanted a prettier kitchen sink. That was really what it was. I wanted a nice kitchen faucet that had the bridge and the spray. And I was really tired of that ugly stainless steel faucet. That I did all of this work to make my apartment something that I wanted it to be, like my dream space. And now I put this template out there, and 3,000 people have used it. And like, I'm
That
just,
That's really awesome, because I
yeah.
think giving people resources, and
Mm-hmm.
I usually say this at some point in the episode, but we're going to be linking your information for people, so if they want to reach out to get
Yay.
that template, or anything else we talk about here, then they can get that, because it can be overwhelming, I think. Obviously it's
Mm-hmm.
going to depend on your landlord's style, and to your point, talking to somebody when you first go and tour the space, or when you first communicate with them, you'll probably get a pretty good feel for what kind of landlord they are. Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, I don't know, maybe loosey goosey isn't the best term for me to use with being a landlord, but I am. It's kind of like, listen, live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't destroy my place. If you do destroy it, you're going to end up paying for it, because that's part of the lease. Hopefully I, as the landlord, am doing my due diligence and checking the person out to, so I'm hedging
Mm-hmm.
my bet so they're not going to destroy the place. And then that's it. I don't actually even make them change things back. A lot of the times I leave it open to discussion. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a black wall behind me in my house. In my last place, because it was a lower level unit, I didn't do anything too dark and moody, because it just would have been too dark down there. But that I might have somebody, if somebody in there now wanted to paint a wall black, go for it, right?
Yeah.
But that's something I probably have them turn back. But if they do another cool, interesting color, or they wanted to swap hardware out, by all means, I'm going to let them keep that, because honestly, it increases my value potentially as a landlord. So that's something to definitely suss out, because also maybe you're like, I don't want to leave this hardware, right? Like, this
Yeah.
is really special hardware. So maybe you have to write
Hmm.
it into the lease that you're going to take it afterwards. So it is a discussion point at the very least.
And
Yeah.
that was sort of what the conversation was. So like basically what I wanted was, I in order to have the faucet, I needed a new sink because it I needed to have the four holes in the back to do the
Mm-hmm.
spray that I wanted. So we made the deal where I was like, look, this is a $6,000 faucet. I will not be leaving this here, but you can have the sink.
Yeah.
New sink, it's yours. I don't care about the sink. The sink was like $200. Whatever, you can have that. But
Right.
my faucet is coming with me when I leave. My light fixtures, they're coming with me when I leave. My hardware, they're coming with me. But everything that they had in here, it's under the bed or in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
And when I leave, I'm just gonna hire a task rabbit to come over and put all this crap back up,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna wash my hands of this, leave, and then when I get to my new place, I'm gonna take, my very nice light fixtures and faucets, and I'm gonna install it in my new place.
Sure.
But I know some people who do things that are a bit more permanent. I know a girl up in New York who just installed like marble countertops. And like marble countertops isn't something that you can just like move to a new place because you just don't know. Like the fabrication is a little bit more difficult. But that's something that she did in her place, and her landlord, I think, paid for a portion of it. So I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can, if you have a good landlord and you intend to stay there for a while, you can work out any kind of deal that you want. I think people forget that like leases are contracts, and contracts are meant to be negotiated.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not doing that, if you're not reading it, if you're not going in there with a little fine tooth comb and saying, no, no, no to this, no, no, no to that, what about this? You're not doing your due diligence. You're not, you're,
Yeah, don't get me into talking about contracts, because I mean it is the rule of law. I mean, in this country with
mhm,
everything. So I mean, it truly does. That's what it comes down to, is making sure you're getting the stuff in writing.
yep.
So okay, well, let's kind of
And
move on a
that's
little
the other
bit.
thing.
So
Get
yeah,
everything in writing.
get everything in writing. So the projects that you think pack the most punch, easiest ones for people to start, kind of just want to get you to go through some of that for people who maybe are really interested in making some changes but still on the
Yeah.
fence or a little fearful. What are
Okay.
your
So
suggestions?
here's what I'll say. I say if you have absolutely no skills, no DIY, no nothing, if you just don't have it, I recommend doing things that you can hire people to do that are that can be inexpensive but make a big difference. Things like changing out hardware is relatively easy, especially if you have newer cabinetry, because all you have to do is take the one pull out and replace it with a pull that is of the exact same size. That is something, if you have a screwdriver, you can do. Changing out light fixtures is one of the greatest things that you can do. You can find very nice $50 flush mounts that look decent. I have two $50 flush mounts
Mm-hmm.
in this apartment. You can buy them from IKEA, Amazon, Target, Wayfair, World Market, anywhere, and you can replace those out. I had an electrician come in and change out 5 lights for like $300.
Mm-hmm.
All new lighting throughout the whole apartment. Best $300 I've ever spent. Those are pretty easy things. If you're willing to get a little bit more handy, paint is and forever will be your best friend. It is, again, relatively inexpensive. I hate saying like affordable because what's affordable to me is not affordable to others, but it is relatively inexpensive to paint something. And that is something that you can do by yourself. Or if you're really not into doing the work, you'd be surprised what people will do for pizza and a couple of beers. So call in some friends, and just have like a little paint party. 2 boxes of pepperoni and a Modelo will really get people on your side.
That's funny.
I definitely think painting is great. And then if you're really wanting to take it there, change out the fixtures in your bathrooms and in your kitchen. Like a new kitchen faucet will do wonders. I cannot stand apartment bathroom faucets for bathrooms. I think they are so ugly. They are so hideous. So I definitely recommend changing those out. If you are not handy, get a plumber. Get a plumber, get a plumber, because if you mess up plumbing,
Yeah.
it will cost you so much money.
Yeah. Even
My
if you
dad
haven't,
is a
yeah.
plumber. My dad is a plumber. I don't play the games with plumbing. I don't even mess with that. I will call my dad, or I'm gonna call a nice tasker from TaskRabbit to come over and handle that.
Yeah.
Or if you're really good, talk to your landlord, because they would probably install it for you. That's what happened in my kitchen. My landlord installed all of this for me, and I was like, "Thank you so much. You
Yeah.
saved me a couple $100. I
Yeah.
appreciate it."
Money is money. Um,
Yep.
so what do you say are the hardest or most challenging projects to navigate, either in general or what you've done?
Peel and stick wallpaper is hard. And it's particularly difficult if you're doing it by yourself. Like, I can pretty much put up wallpaper anywhere alone. But if you don't have a friend to help you, it is hard to sort of line it up, especially because I think people tend to want, like, if it's their first time doing it, they want to go big. So then they'll be like, oh, I'm going to cover the whole room floor to ceiling. But then they don't realize, like, babe, you're going to be up on a ladder. And as you're up on that ladder trying to get the top, feeling like you're going to fall, the bottom is down here doing whatever. And then they want to get the complicated patterns and having it match up. And I'm like, look, take it simple and do like something that I did in my bathroom where I only did like a half wall. One, that saves you money because you have to buy less paper. And two, it's just a lot easier to work, in 3 feet sections than it is to work in like an 8 foot section. So I definitely think that one's a little bit more difficult. And changing light fixtures is hard. People try to act like it's easy, but I think the fear of being electrocuted sort of heightens it for people. Like, that's why I don't do it. Like, I have a genuine fear that I'm going to electrocute myself, even though I do turn it off at the breaker. I have the switch off. I do all the things. I take all the safety precautions, but I'm just going to be like, I don't know, man, it's going to be a freak accident. I'm going to electrocute myself. So,
Yeah, I
hire
mean,
people.
I never suggest that anybody does anything involving electricity or water, to be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
But what's making me kind of smile while we're talking about this is I actually bought peel and stick wallpaper for my condo. And I had somebody helping me, and it is really, really, really hard because unlike
Mm-hmm.
regular wallpaper where you have some give with the glue and you can kind of move it around, once it
Mm-hmm.
sticks, it sticks.
Yep.
So yeah, so
And you have
anybody
to
who's
sort of
looking,
lift the whole panel back
yep,
off to put
yep,
it back on.
yep,
I
it's hard.
recommend, don't don't do like a linear pattern. If you're gonna do it, do a pattern that's sort of all over the place, because even if it's off like a little bit, it won't look as weird. Like, I did one in my closet that's all straight lines, and if one line was off, everything, all the wallpaper would look like this.
Yeah,
um and also,
yeah.
it requires a tremendous amount of math.
Yes, that's true. I mean, we won't belabor the whole wallpaper thing because I could probably do a
Yeah.
whole episode on wallpaper. But yeah, I mean, that paper that I bought years ago, it never ended up going up. I was very upset because I spent money on it, and so I
Hmm.
I built what I've called a cloffice. It's like an
Mm.
office in a closet a year and a half ago, and I ended up putting it in that because I was holding on to this paper for so long, and I had to have a contractor do it for me because I was incapable of doing it. But anyway, okay. So my guess is wallpaper like the project you're most proud of. It would be mine for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Yes. That the wallpaper in my dining room, it's like the zebras, the Scalamandro wallpaper. That project, I think, is what attracted my account to so many people. Because a lot of people put that wallpaper up in like homes because it's a very expensive and very iconic paper. And I think not a lot of people were using it in rentals, and not a lot of people were putting them up all across the walls. It's literally like dancing zebras in that room.
Yeah.
And it took so long. It took so much effort. I had my friend helping me. We were like new to being friends, like new to like spending so much time together. And every day I look at him, I'd be like, oh my God, you didn't stop being my friend because of this. appreciate you so much because I would have stopped being my friend
Yeah.
because of this wallpaper. It was horrible. But it's that, oh man, every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, look at you.
And that is an iconic paper because I've featured it multiple times on my Instagram account, and also I
Mm-hmm.
every time I see it at a listing, I kind of explain it, and I know the
Mm-hmm.
history of that paper. But anyway, okay, so throughout this process, obviously, so what we didn't say in the beginning is that you started this during the pandemic. Your this whole
Mm-hmm.
kind of adventure in do-it-yourself rental changes or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of went into sharing everything with everyone, which was really wonderful. And you started Imani at Home. That's what you call it,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And, explain kind of how that adventure has gone and things that you've learned through that as well.
Okay. So prior to doing all of this, I worked for a company called Waterworks and we did like luxury kitchen and bath projects. But I also worked at two restaurants and I worked at Waterworks and I was just a busy, busy, busy person. When the pandemic hit, I lost both of my restaurant jobs and I had to go from being in the office at Waterworks 5 days a week to being at home and only working 4 days a week. So I went from a person that was like out and about all the time to always being at home. And I have claustrophobia. So being in this space, like I just started to feel like the walls were closing in on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have to go outside. I got to go out. And the only thing that was open was Ace Hardware. And so I was at an Ace Hardware 2 to 3 times a day. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take the, and like you can bring your dog into Ace Hardware. So I was going on walks with the dog. Okay, we're going to Ace. I started buying paint and stain and pretty much anything I could get my hands on. And I just started making changes. And I was just like on my regular Instagram being like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing today because I'm bored and we're all in our house. And I had two friends that both sort of work in social media and they were like, this is a thing, you need to do something with this. And I was like, do what I'm gonna do. And one of my friends, her name's Danielle, we were like roommates in college. She and I were on the phone and we were just like brainstorming names. I was like, well, if you want me to do this, come up with a name. And we were brainstorming all these different names and then she said Imani at Home and I was like, I do be at home. I do be at home.
I'm at home a lot right now.
I'm at home a lot right now.
Yeah.
So then I just created an Instagram, and for a while it was like 300 people. It was like my mom and my mom's friends and people that I work with, and then all of a sudden it went from like 300 people to 2,000 people, and then from like 2,000 to 20,000 was like 3 weeks, and then from 20,000 to 50,000 was probably another year. And then from 50,000 to I think almost 80,000 was like another couple of months. And that's sort of where I am right now. And it was just like this constant growth of people finding me and then sharing it with everyone that they know, being like, oh my God, this is so cool. This is fun. I want to do this. You've inspired me to do this. And then people sending me pictures of, I saw you did this paint color and then I put this paint color in my house. And it, I've been doing this for almost 3 years and it has just grown in ways that I
Couldn't have
couldn't
imagined.
really have fathomed. I didn't think it was going to be like this. I was a person who made my space my own prior to even putting it on the internet. Um, and so like I love doing this. I'm a nester. I like comfort. I like pillows. I like the blankets. I like the rugs. And so I was doing this before I even got put it on the internet. And then when I put it on the internet, I realized how many people wanted to see this kind of content specifically from somebody like me. As a person who loves design, I was the kid watching Trading Spaces. I would be like, oh girl, what do they got on HGTV today? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was watching International House Hunters all the time. And I think when you like design and specifically like design TV and design on the internet, it is a space that caters to the same kind of people all the time. And I like it, but it never really felt like me. It never
Mhm.
felt like something that I would do in my house, because you have like the super big influencers, creators, people who are like, yeah, I called my contractor and we put $20,000 into like this one room for this one project in 6 weeks. And I'm like, okay, not relatable. And then on the other hand, you have like a lot of smaller designers who, like, when you're in a small space, they're doing the like and the whole house is white
Mhm.
kind of thing. And here's a very nice cream couch situation. And I'm like, I'm not that girl either. So where is the space? Where is the lane for people who want something creative and full and maximalist and eclectic? And where are the girls who drink martinis and then go to the flea market? Where is the lane for people who are kind of drunk when they're like negotiating over a mirror? Where are the girls who are on Facebook Marketplace at 2 a.m. with a glass of wine? Those are my people, because I am that girl. And I think because I have such a love of renting, I I make content for people for where they are. And I
Yeah.
don't try to like, oh, this is a temporary solution for me for when I get married or when I have a kid. And like, there's no shame or no whatever to people who that's their future. But like, I don't want to have kids. So when people are like, oh, well, it's for you're buying a house for your future generations. My next generation is a dog. His name is Salazar. That would be weird to buy a house for a dog.
Though I have to
Uh,
tell you, I read an article recently about somebody who left
People
their
do it.
estate to their dog, but go on.
You know, that'd be something I would do.
Mhm.
But it's like I don't feel like my life should be put on hold until I get married or until I have a baby, because when that's gonna happen, I don't know. I'm not gonna live in
Well,
an ugly house until I get
sure. I mean,
somebody. No, I'm somebody.
nobody knows what the future holds. But speaking of,
Yeah.
so do you think you ever see a home purchase in your future, or what's next for you?
No. I don't want a home in the traditional sense of a home. My future plans for Imani at Home is to actually grow this into a much larger like media company. And I want sort of like my vision is like a converted mansion style place where it's like the first floor I'll sell like my vintage wares or any like home decor collabs that I work on, and it'll maybe have like a little coffee shop, and like people can come and work on their laptops and like shop a little bit. And also there's like issues that I have with DC where like certain candies that I like you can't buy here, so I'll sell those because that's how I feel. So I'll do stuff like that. And then on the second floor I want to convert it to like this big open office space for like all the people that will work at Imani at Home. And then the third floor is where I will live, and I envision it being this very like long railroad style apartment, I guess, where it's like on one end is the bedroom, the middle is the bathroom, and it'll be like this big, huge copper tub in the middle, and then my closet, and then a living room, dining room, and then at the back there'll be like a little balcony that I sit on in the morning.
Wow. I mean, I am impressed with the vision, and as somebody who dreams big, I really appreciate that. But it
Yeah.
sounds like maybe not necessarily in DC, because I'm not sure where you're gonna. I mean, I don't know. Maybe your media company is gonna blow up, but I mean that's expensive real estate, rental or
It
buying.
is. It is. No, I want it in DC, and I feel like when you're in this space, like people are like, oh, go to New York, and I'm like, I don't like New York personally. Or they're like, go to LA. I also don't like LA. It's too sunny. Um, I like DC. It's big enough yet small enough for me, and I see it being very expensive real estate. I go on a lot of commercial real estate websites and I just scroll and scroll and scroll until I see something that I like, and then I just put it in the back of my mind. It's like, somebody was like, "Oh, well, maybe you should buy a house and then you can use the equity from the house to buy this." And I'm like, I'm not putting the money that I have into a $500,000 condo. That would be silly. I'm just going to keep working at it, and then, get my $4 million that I'm
Different strokes for different folks, right? We're not talking down on any of it, but well, that's good. So it
no.
sounds like probably not home purchasing in your future or your immediate future, but staying in DC
Staying in DC for sure.
and maybe doing another rental for people to follow along with. Yeah.
Yeah, in I feel like I've made this apartment what I want it to be. I
Hmm.
have given it my all, and I don't believe in just like changing spaces continuously for the sake of content, really. I do it because I like it or because I need to. Um, and I feel like I have made this space exactly what I want it to be, and I don't want to change it. But I do need more space. I want a door. That is like my I want a door to a bedroom that I can shut. So hopefully, in the next few months, I can start my apartment search again. And I can probably find me like a nice little one bedroom situation in one bedroom or two bedroom situation here in DC.
Well, I'll definitely be interested in following along and seeing how things kind of end. No, because it'll be a really full circle, right? To see how your
Yeah.
rental ends, to see if everything goes according to plan. I'm sure you'll tell us all about it, and then of course to see what you do with your next place.
Yeah,
So,
I'm so
Imani,
excited.
thank you so much for coming on and sharing kind of your story and some of your ideas for people. And like I said, I'll be linking all of your information in all of the show notes so people can get in touch just to get to know you, or even if they want the template you talked about. And
Yeah.
we'll go from there. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
You too.